Hey guys, welcome back to my channel again. So today I'm going to be leading up into this whole section where I'm going to be talking about astrological energy updates, how we entangle with the planets, and it actually affects our evolutionary growth as humans and helps us along our path to awakening and becoming more conscious. Now, if you've dove into my other videos, hopefully you did and kind of went through my foundation videos to kind of understand our societal structure as a whole and how we're living in a narcissistic family dynamic. Now, naturally, what will happen is astrology is kind of one of those scapegoated things from society. It's not really acceptable, and for a lot of people, it's not really taken seriously. And it always is so mind-baffling to me when there's other scientific proof to show opposite. And I'm going to explain why, just like with a few core things before I dive into all of this information about astrology and the planetary movements and how they affect us chemically as beings and how this relates to astrology. So I'm going to be combining all of this information to give a little bit of a different spin on astrology. In my video on quantum physics and the relation between law of attraction, there's something called entanglement. An entanglement is when two quantum entities come into contact or relationship within each other, and they will affect each other's behavior no matter the distance between them. So even if I had two electrons sitting here on Earth, I brought them in relationship with each other, they hung out, they became friends, then what will happen is if I shoot one electron out at the moon and I were to spin the one here on Earth in a clockwise direction, then it would automatically affect the one on the moon to spin in a counterclockwise direction. The other one I want to talk about briefly is quantum tunneling. Quantum tunneling is when a quantum entity, like say a proton or electron, can actually force its way through a barrier when it shouldn't normally be able to. That's why us as human beings, we can't just walk through walls and things like that. It's because as an organism gets bigger, as the molecules come together and create cells and everything, and the organism becomes even bigger and more complex, then it's not able to quantum tunnel through specific things like a wall. Quantum tunneling actually happens with the sun. The sun actually, the photons of light that come from the sun actually quantum tunnel through the atmosphere of the Earth to get down to us here where we need it. That's our energy supply. We need that source of energy to survive here on Earth, our plants, us as human beings. So we are receiving those photons of light because of quantum tunneling. The moon actually affects the tides. So we already know that. A human being consists of about 75% of water, okay? Not only that, we've also got this huge chemical makeup. We're a carbon-based unit. We're made up of hydrogen and oxygen and all of these different elements. Why in the world wouldn't that happen with other planets? It does happen with other planets. So in the whole astronomy world, the astronomers have to use something called a spectrometer to even be able to tell what a planet is made of. So this is how they can tell specifically what a planet consists of. It's because in chemistry, the periodic table of elements is arranged in order of how many protons, neutrons, electrons orbit around the nucleus of each individual element. And the way that they can tell what a specific element is by the color of light that is being emitted from the actual atom or from the molecule that has come together. So this is what they have to do with a planet. This is how they can actually tell what a planet is made of, all the elements that are consistent in it, is they use this special tool to be able to zoom in on that planet and see what the planet is made of. So, for example, Mercury, Venus, and I believe Mars actually consist of similar elements as the Earth. So that's just an example. I'm going to go through each individual planet and what it's made of. So dive into those other videos, and I'm going to be relating it to astrology so you're not completely bored out of your mind listening to how I talk about the elements of each planet. It will make so much more sense. But the whole general reason why I'm talking about it as a whole is that that light that we don't see, that's being emitted from planets that our tools and like a spectrometer can pick up on, those photons are actually quantum tunneling through the earth, and we are receiving that energy into our own beings. This is why astrology is real. And this is the other reason why, things that I want to bring up. If you want to jump over to my other channel and my videos about the energy and the vibrations of emotions that are based around the language, like how we speak. When we speak, we will be projecting our emotional state. So that's why something like astrology is scapegoated or ostracized in society. People will project their own shame onto things such as that, those type of beliefs, because they're actually projecting their own emotional vibrational state. So when you're shaming something like, say, astrology and ostracizing it, saying it's ridiculous, you're actually just projecting your own shame. This is, again, why I talk about our narcissistic society as a whole, how this whole entire society and world is particle-based and based off of the low vibrational emotions of shame, guilt, and fear. That's why I talk about how specifically our society is structured, how we have organizations or entities in power that represent the narcissistic parent, and then we have scapegoats in our society. We have golden children or bullies in our society. It's because our whole entire structure has been based around the low vibrational emotions of shame, guilt, and fear. So whatever you, with your observation, decide to entangle with as far as beliefs go, like religion, because a lot of religions also have this psychological structure as well. They are also based around the low vibrational emotions of shame, guilt, and fear. They also mirror the narcissistic family dynamic with people in power, the prophets, the apostles, like whoever is at the top of the organization. And then we've got the shameful people or things in the religions or organizations that represents the scapegoats or the ostracized in the organization. And then the ones that are perfect, who are like golden children or bullies. So I'm bringing that up because what you decide to entangle with your observation is the vibrational state that you are going to be entangling with. When you decide to entangle with these specific organizations or religions or things of power or things that are considered golden children or bullies in our society, then you will actually tend to pick up on those same exact vibrational dynamics within yourself. So then you psychologically will be contributing to that whole dynamic that's being set up in the first place. You'll probably set up your own dynamic within your family, within your friendships, within situations that you go into where there will be someone in power or control, someone on a pedestal, someone better or lower than the other, and then you'll have scapegoats or golden children. You'll psychologically set up that whole dynamic without even knowing it, just based off of the low vibrational emotions of shame, guilt, and fear. When you decide to entangle with natural energies of the universe, like say the sun, this is why something as far as like sun gazing or even back in older times, sun worshiping was so much bigger, was because when you decide to entangle with things of that nature, you're actually taking in a pure and natural energy source. And this is the whole reason I'm bringing this up is because when you decide to entangle with the whole belief system around astrology and the planetary movements and what they mean, then you are actually moving along with the natural evolution of your vibrational being, because the planets are going to specifically trigger your chemical being in specific areas where you have stuck energy, aka you have the low vibrational emotions of shame, guilt, and fear based around thoughts, beliefs, and even experiences and situations that have been programmed into your neural net. So you're the one that really truly decides that. People can project their shame or guilt or fear over astrology all they want. The sun is actually breaking the barrier of the earth. The sun's photons are actually breaking the atmosphere of the earth and coming to us, which means that the planets are actually going to have an influence on us as well. They're emitting a light. They're emitting photons of light constantly on a consistent basis. And then when you decide with your observation to entangle with, like I said, that whole belief system and the energy of the planets, then you'll actually help your own conscious evolutionary growth by following that whole line of thinking. I have always followed astrology and believe it to be, very accurate, that I've seen definitely a pattern as far as how my own body and my own vibrational being is completely lined up with moon cycles and things of that nature, because I have scientifically, quantum physically decided to entangle with that belief within myself. How is that reacting with my body? And I think humans have done a pretty good job at interpreting the exact energy that is being triggered within us from the planetary movements. So for the most part, I do follow along with that. But at the same time, I tend to just follow along with my own intuition and what is being brought up astrologically within the planetary movements that will react with my chemical body. The other thing I wanted to bring up that I found very, very fascinating, if you'll tune over to one of my foundational videos, I talk about free radicals and how they're a molecule that's missing an electron, and when it enters into an organism, it steals electrons from the healthy cells in our bodies. Free radicals are also linked to parasites. And parasites, you guys are gonna think I'm so weird. Like, I know this probably sounds so random, but just hold on really quick. Free radicals are linked to parasites because what do parasites do? They actually steal the nutrients that we need from the food that we put into our body, and they will take that energy for themselves, and they become bigger. They're like energy vampires in and of themselves, or I like to call them like narcissistic in and of themselves. I've read different like statistics on this, but I've pretty much seen that anywhere from 85 to 95% of us humans have parasites in us, which makes sense because if they're also in some way linked to free radicals, I mean, we're taking in free radicals on a constant basis from the toxins in the air, from processed foods, from the chemicals on our produce, from even the brain chemical releases that we have that are tied around like cortisol. So there's all these different ways that we're receiving free radicals. So it makes sense that that many of us in our society actually have parasites within us. I actually read, and I'll try to link the article down below in the comments, I actually read that around the time of the full moon every month, and this was actually said by a doctor, they saw that parasites had the most activity and that humans had the most emotional reactions around the time of the full moon. Why? Because the full moon is actually triggering the energy from that full moon is actually triggering that energy within your body and letting your body know, like, parasites cause emotional reactions. They can cause depression and anxiety and all of these mental issues that we think are just because we were raised with them. They're actually coming from parasites and from free radicals. So really think about that. So I've heard a lot of hospital people say that they see the most accidents and the craziest people and the craziest things happen around the time of the full moon each month. It's because of all of this. It's because the planets are actually triggering these stuck energies within inside of us and letting us know that this is something that needs to be healed. If you're kind of wanting to know why, I would definitely recommend jumping over. I have a whole like playlist and channel that's going to be specifically focused on food and, higher vibrational foods to keep that energy clear within you, so that you actually kind of move along a bit smoother, especially when you're combining astrology and things of that nature to really get you evolving as a human being and moving past maybe stuck situations you're in, painful relationships, all of those things. It's really just kind of to help us all move along this path much easier, much simpler. So yeah, like, I hope you guys really got something from this information. I really enjoy merging this whole science and spirituality. I feel like they're completely compatible as far as, you know, astrology and merging it with biology and chemistry. They're very compatible. It just makes complete sense when you really start merging both ideals and ways of thinking together to explain how we evolve as human beings. I will see you guys in the next video. Again, I hope you enjoyed the information, and yeah, take care.